We're proud to have today's episode sponsored by Ergo Pouch, an Aussie company born right here in Melbourne. It all started when founder Alina Sack, a sleep-deprived mum, sewed her first sleeping bag to help her restless bubs sleep better. That little idea grew into a trusted brand making beautiful organic sleepwear that supports your child's development from newborn to 6 years old. The products are TOG rated for warmth, made from certified organic cotton, and built to last. They're also big on sustainability, which is something I'm really passionate about, especially when it comes to looking after the environment for our kids. So please check them out and show some love as they're helping pop culture parenting grow into the future. Billy, episode 107, The Future Reflection. We used Fifth Element as the movie topic. An incredibly fulsome episode. And actually, I'm going to jump in here early. The best shorts section I can think of. I just absolutely loved the shorts.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep. Yeah. So it was brilliant. So dive into those. But what are people going to learn this week, Billy?
Yeah, so we go a little bit deeper in practical application about how we support kids around the future, worries that we have, worries that they have. How do we prepare them? What are some of the pitfalls that we can fall into? And just some really great reflections, questions, and end on just a really beautiful use of pop culture parenting to describe gorgeous kids that are in a loving family.
It is fantastic. There's a beautiful analogy in there about dealing with anxiety and framing it that I think most kids would kind of understand. I really liked it anyway. That was my takeaway. Billy, thank you so much. Everyone else, please enjoy the podcast. And there's a little question at the end, or a little hint to our next movie at the end of the episode. Yeah. But enjoy. Thanks very much, Billy.
Hi, I'm Billy, a developmental paediatrician.
And I'm Nick, a developing parent.
We're going to use scenes from iconic movies to talk about how we best support our kids.
This is Pop Culture Parenting.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.
Good morning, Dr. Billy Garvey. How are you?
I'm good, Nick. As always, I've been getting a lot of Nick time, which has been beautiful, I've got to admit. I was even thinking, should we just move the families in together?
Wow. Takes a village to raise them. But I noticed you've done that just as you're about to have a third kid.
The second kid's sleeping in the living room.
Mate,
So
how about we all move in now? I was like, where were you 6 years ago, mate?
Yeah.
You didn't have any, huh?
Yeah.
Where were you?
Living the life. That's what I was doing. But
We've had a lot of time together, though.
yeah, it's been
did say that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Socially as well. Which has been really nice.
But we've just come off my first live Patreon event with you.
Yeah.
I felt like an 80s synthesizer player in a band. Like, they had the levels of synth and they had you'd have like a synthesizer here and one here and you're stabbing all of them. Yeah. That was me trying to vision switch.
You were amazing. You were
the comments
vision
thread
switching
and the Slido thread.
Answering questions on multiple devices.
I was like this. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was twisting knobs and just like hitting buttons.
Yeah, dragged you into another part of
it was a heck of a start.
Yeah. Weren't sure if we could make it happen 1 minute before it did, but that's
amazing.
Story of my life.
I was just like, it really was. I hadn't been in the vortex for a while. And I was like, I walked in and I was like, okay.
I know, I try and protect you from the vortex.
It was good for me.
You were amazing.
It was good for me.
Just to go back home and be like, at least I'm now I'm in a safe place. I tried to get, because we sat back and talked for an hour, I couldn't get a beer into you. I think you were just like, no, I need to get, I need to get out of here.
I won't sleep for 3 hours. Alcohol won't help. And you were dozing by the end of the combo.
In a dark room listening to Enya when you get home.
It's rocking.
Anyway, thank you to everyone that came to that live Q&A. We're gonna get better at it.
We're gonna get better. But the Patreon was awesome. I loved it. The audience was great. It's such a warm audience as well, which is so nice.
Yeah.
So pretty forgiving, which they needed to be with my efforts on the live stream. But I loved it. I loved the vision switching between the live cameras.
Yeah.
But a bit more pressure. But Billy, we're here now to talk about a second part episode on the future.
Yes. Yeah.
And we did this as part of the live show for the Fifth Element at ACMI in Melbourne, which was awesome. Got to meet a bunch of people, which was cool.
Yeah.
And you would have noticed that across the socials. I'm dressed in a head to bottom in a very colourful tracksuit.
Yeah, it was amazing though. I don't know if you saw there was some comments on social just celebrating you doing that in like, non kind of gender conforming attire, which I thought was really cool.
I didn't realise. I just was like, it's a cool track.
Yeah, exactly.
Ken Done.
Which is beautiful.
Reminds me of my youth, the 80s. It's a Ken Done print track. But I quite enjoy wearing it.
Yeah, it was
Any
lovely.
Excuse.
I know. And it's quite funny because you're like, God, I hope I'm not just drawing attention to myself. And I'd be like, mate, I'd be wearing it. I'd be wearing it in public.
It is, someone just said to me, it's a very drippy fit.
Yeah.
It's the kids say, fresh drip. I've gone from that to a hand-knitted mother-in-law jumper. I have a lot of range in fashion, Billy.
You do, but you look great in all of it, man.
I know, but this is hot, so this thing's coming off halfway through because you've actually put the heater on. It's definitely winter where we are at the moment.
Well, yeah, I need to keep the talent happy.
Hot and lethargic. I'm trying not to... No. All right, hey, Billy, let's get into the polls.
Yeah.
Let's rip in.
Yeah.
So we put up 3 polls. If you want to participate in the polls, just follow us on Instagram. It's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, the Monday evening before the episode comes out.
Yep. You should just be on our Instagram all the time, liking, commenting, sharing, blowing up the numbers. Billy, we asked in the poll, do you think your parents worried about the future? 60% of people said yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Did yours?
I can't imagine any parents not worrying about the future a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think... in my mind, times were better and easier in the 80s, and especially the way Bluey frames it up as, it was the 80s. Bit more carefree, but, mate, they would have had the same problems, surely.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting, like, that question of do we hide that from our kids, that we're worried about the future? Do you know what I mean? And we'll talk about that in more detail. But yeah, and I also I want to do this really gently, but there was a comment on the clip that was about a kid taking food without parents being aware of it. And some people in the comments were like, how can you take food from your own house? Like, being a bit critical, which I think it was coming from a place of caring for the kid, which is awesome. But I think it's good to reflect and remember that, like, there's lots of reasons why people worry about the future and stuff like that. And food insecurity is a big one. So, they might have limited food in the house. So when the kid is taking it, you're thinking that was going to be used for dinner tonight, or we don't have enough. And without playing a tiny violin too loudly, I kind of grew up like that. I've got really unhealthy behaviours. This is on topic around food. I can't, if food's running out in the fridge, I can't eat it. Doesn't matter how hungry I am, because I'm worried that because I'm worried the kids might need it, which is ridiculous.
No,
I don't have any financial.
It's not ridiculous. That's not why I'm shaking.
Well, I don't have any financial insecurity, but that's what I grew up with. I don't know if I said this to you, because I know you talk about your dietary stuff as a kid. I frequently, for a long time, would not eat breakfast and lunch, and the first meal I'd have is when I get home from school, and I would eat icing sugar mixed with water. That used to be my first food for the day, and I'm still like that. My natural state is to not eat until dinner.
I was one of those kids that was like, it's not as uncommon as you think, just used to eat white foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I used to drink a litre of milk. I used to have like cheese sandwiches, and then I'd have mashed potatoes for dinner. My mum claims, I think I might have it wrong. It was either she said, because of a big family, she'd be like, I used to buy 10 kilos of potatoes each week for the family, because we were very meat and 3-veg sort of thing. Yeah, and we used to just smash it, and we ate so much bread in my family. Yeah, just to fill everyone up, just like so much bread, because 4 boys, my sister, just like smashing food constantly. Anyway,
but I feel like you have a healthy relationship with food, don't
I do now. I didn't eat meat until I was 25.
Yeah, but it's not so much what you were eating, it was how food was, like thoughts about food, behaviours around food and all that stuff. And I've still carried over from that, whereas I feel like you've got a really healthy relationship with food. Yeah. And that's the thing, like we're talking about the future, we're building all of these beliefs and behaviours in our kids, aren't we? Yeah. So...
yeah, okay, yes, that is important. I see how that's important, because for you it was tough and you've carried that through.
Yeah, and Annalise helps buffer that, because she's like, nah, take this to work and eat it, as you're getting ready for clinic start. And that's what I do. Okay. And but my natural state is not to do that. And I literally, ridiculously, if there's food that's running low in the fridge, I can't eat it, because I'm just like, nah, I still can't do that. I haven't gotten over that bit of it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I won't hurt us up on every.
No, fine, Billy. Hey, do you find it easy to talk to your kids about the future? Yes. Oh, sorry. 52% of people said yes. So half the audience said yes. I feel like it's easy.
You find it easy?
I feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't want to promise. I don't want to overpromise.
I find it hard. I've had two recent things that found it hard.
Tell me, what?
So one was kind of around like body part curiosity, and I'm just like, off the back of the beautiful boys thing, I'm just like, oh man, we'll get to that on another topic. The second thing is recently we had a tradesperson come in for an emergency thing we needed to have done, and he saw me and started just like comically making derogatory comments about my hair colour. And I was like, I just need you to do this thing. I'm just being like superficially polite. 'Cause I'm like, I just don't want to get in an argument with him and him to leave. And then I've still got that problem I need solved quickly. But then Evie wandered out and he started doing it for her. And I was like, and you could see she was like really, she didn't understand. She was like really like, not shocked, but she just couldn't comprehend what he was talking about, like the derogatory terms and names he was calling her. And he's kind of doing it in jest, but it was just this, I was like, oh man, I've got to have a talk to her about this because it's going to happen when I'm not there. And so that kind of future thing, it was really awful experience actually, like, because then Annalise came out and this guy had his wife with him and his wife was like trying to be helpful and he just, everything she said was wrong. He'd tell her that every time she tried to be like, oh, sometimes this helps. And he's like, that never helps. And like talking down to her, and I was just like, oh man. And that experience actually made me worry about the future because I was like, you know, this stuff being out there.
Well, yeah, okay. I hadn't thought about that. I guess maybe I'm 50-50 now. Like half the stuff I like talking about and the other half I don't. No, it's fair. Like I'm a bit sunny side up. I think I've had a coffee this morning. I'm ready to go. I don't know.
You always are.
I'm sorry.
Mate.
No, I'm not.
Well, you're not. Sorry, that's not fair. You're not always, but you are like everyone. You have variability in your emotions, which is going to come up in a question as well. But yeah, I think your natural tendency is to be optimistic about the future, which is beautiful.
And I sit with about 50% of the audience, Billy, because in our final question, we asked, are you optimistic about the future? And 47% said yes. Which you will have noticed, Billy, that I've changed the answer because I'm particularly optimistic because you had here 53% said no.
Yeah, you're a glasses 47% full type of person.
Oh, that's not good. So, no, I can see you've gone with the majority of numbers the whole way through, Billy, but yes, I had it as 47% are optimistic about the future.
So I am. You're not going to like why.
Why?
Because of you.
Me?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you have helped me be for 3 reasons. Do you want all 3 of them?
Yeah, well, if you got 5, I'll take 5. Hey, don't cap it. They can wait and listen.
Just go as long as you can go for, mate.
Just part 2. Go, no, please, for the airwaves.
So yeah, 3 reasons. So we did the live, and you and I had a chat for about an hour later.
Oh, wasn't that good?
I walked in. You said goodbye to you, and I walked in, and Annalise is still up. And I just looked at her, and I was like, God, I feel like I know Como, which is what we call you affectionately. I feel like I know Como so well, and then he just does something that surprises me. And I was like, he's such a beautiful human. And Annalise is like, yeah. Like, you know when you say something and someone's like, yeah, you're just figuring that out? I was like, but because, and 3 reasons that you help me with thinking about the future. You like, I have a lot of trauma from relationships, including family, and you help heal that because you help show me that relationships can be safe and can come back from conflict and can all that kind of stuff and are not, you don't hurt me, you heal me. Secondly, you provide a family for my family, and that's one of the biggest things I worry about is that I can't provide family for my kids, and you do that. And as much as that tradie worries me, seeing that there's someone like you out there in the world buffers me completely against that. Like, it's true. I honestly believe that. But you deserve that. You deserve to hear that, and you deserve to feel that. And you directly, in your friendship, the way you are with your kids, the way you are with my kids, the way you are with everyone, you make me more optimistic about the future.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, you're giving me the skills to make me better for the future, and my kids are going to benefit, and hopefully yours. So there you go. I can't even look at you at the moment. Thanks, Billy. Hey, Billy, let's move into the shorts. Hey, shorts. So this is where we ask the short questions on the polls via Instagram. Shorts questions. So we say, got any questions about the future, basically.
Yeah.
First response from someone. I haven't even thought about the future. It's been a day-to-day survival. Fair.
Yeah, so I think it is really fair to call that out because sometimes I think that I can go like so far down the road about complexity, way to deal with stuff, be proactive, and people are like, man, I'm just trying to keep my head above the water.
Man, there's moments like that.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Like I only know the real infinity small baby stuff where it's all day-to-day, but like the social emotional stuff of growing kids and, you know, when stuff goes bad at school, like I can see the day-to-day prop, and I see it amongst friends as well, family. Like, you know, you just see there's moments where it's like this stuff can be really day-to-day.
Yeah.
I get it. I haven't had a ton of exposure. A bit on that stuff. I mean, I have, I guess, but I don't know, nothing too wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Billy, what to do with the guilt around bringing children into a world facing climate crisis?
I feel that a lot. And, you know, I still remember it's like haunting me that like the number one thing you can do to the environment is not have kids. And then it's like ever get on an airplane and then all that stuff. And so, I think that, you know, acceptance and commitment therapy can help with that in terms of the approach about like not dismissing, burying, ignoring, you know, not validating that feeling that I have or others might have, and then thinking about what's a values-based action that you can take to think about it. And so I think, yes, I feel somewhat selfish and guilty about having kids, especially multiple kids, about the impact on the environment. I also think that there are things that are ongoing that are detrimental that are happening in the world that won't harm anyone by getting better at doing them, such as like, you know, politicians and big corps not actually being accountable. And then I actually think the kids of the future, which is obviously on topic in terms of how we will resolve these issues that we face that are huge. I think that it'll be our kids, if they're given the opportunity to thrive, which is what Guiding Grown Ones is all about, and reach their potential, there will be kids that choose, not because it's their responsibility, but choose to figure this out and make the world a more sustainable, healthier place. Remembering that even we spoke about last time, even acutely in the extreme weather days, which are scientifically proven to be happening more frequently all over the world, we see increased rates of suicide, domestic violence, you know, mental illness, all of that stuff. And the latest data is showing it's getting worse. So I think that's how I deal with this. I don't know if you have
I'm back probably that commitment, you know, acknowledgement, and then like moving forward, I do try to bear it a little bit, not completely throw my head in the sand. But
it's really interesting. I was thinking about you about this, and I wonder if you feel comfortable talking about it. Yeah. When we started the podcast, because we were in the pandemic, I have this really beautiful memory of walking around your garden and you showing me all of the organic food you were growing.
Yeah. COVID, yep, during COVID. Yeah.
But it was this really, like, you've got a real skill in that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It comes from my mum.
And I know I'm one of the reasons I'm making you not have the space and time to do that anymore. But you don't kind of,
rubbish.
You know, but you don't have that much of a connection to that anymore. But I feel like that's what proven evidence shows about people who have eco-anxiety is that getting like practical, like active.
Oh, yeah. So it's not as, Billy, it's not as vast as it once was. My market garden, which I was fortunate enough to have and tend, because I had small kids.
It was mostly the backyard.
It was the whole backyard. Then I bought a trampoline, and now that's mostly the backyard. Still got the chooks, but I'm passionate about my citrus, Billy. My limes are humming.
Yeah.
Humming.
Yeah.
Mandarin's about to come in.
But it's a side that the listeners have never heard about you, actually. You're like quite knowledgeable and passionate about things like compost. And
yes. Oh, my God. Billy, if the podcast, you know, if something in this world changed where I didn't have, you know what I would do all day? I'm not even joking. It's something to do with compost. I love compost. It's like a micro world.
Yeah.
Just trillions of worms and bacteria.
And it's
Amazing.
funny because you're very infectious about a lot of things, but you made me get into it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's
just
fun,
because
isn't
of
it?
you talking about it and following you around. So it's just an important point about like that's a practical application. If you
Yep.
do have anxiety about that, how do you do stuff that's within your means?
I'm going to move you through a few
Sorry.
questions here, Billy. Yeah, people don't need to hear about my compost addiction. Hey, Billy, how do you stop the anxiety and worry of whether your kids will struggle? Huh. No, you tell mate, because I am worried.
So what's
go.
the framework we've been talking about? What do you do first?
Check yourself.
Yeah, well, what? So say I'm sitting here going, I'm really worried about Evie and Charlie's future. I can't stop thinking about it. It's stressing me out. I can't sleep. Struggling to go to work. It's impacting my relationships. I'm agitated all the time.
Connect and validate
Yeah.
with you
What
on
are
it.
you, and what are you going to help me do?
I'm going to go, tell me what it is and let you explain a little bit more so you're not just ruminating in your own head to like
Yeah.
surface it and get it all out.
And what's the first step of acceptance and commitment therapy?
Acknowledging that that's real,
Yeah.
particularly for you
Yeah.
because you believe that.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. So then thinking about, and it's different pace for everyone, we'll talk about that in the longs, getting to the point where what can we actually do about it?
Yeah.
And as an adult, we have the greatest
Should.
capacity to think about what's an action that will help with that. In terms of symptom control, what can we do with the anxiety that you're feeling right now?
Yep.
And also, what can we do on a bigger scale about that?
Yep.
For example, go and learn about the biggest predictor of their future outcomes, which is their social and emotional development, and figure out how to scaffold and support that, identify when they're struggling with it and how to respond to those struggles,
Yeah.
which is what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think just a really, really, really practical example of how I thought about this and took from the live show was we talked about snakes.
Yeah.
And I think it was talking about snakes where it was like kids are worried about snakes and you go, I think it was someone or something asked and we said, oh yeah, that's valid. Let's go learn a little bit more about snakes because they're worried about the snake being in the home. I said, oh, wow, it looks like snakes are really, not in urban areas, suburban areas. And, it looks like they really need water. Do you reckon they're more likely to sort of come here and actually be here given where we live and, in the suburbs and there's not a great water source and all these other reasons?
Yeah.
And talk about that and then asking questions about, do you think that it's going to be a problem? And the kid might go, actually, it's not a bigger problem.
So beautiful because you've gone from validating an emotional brain to entering successfully into the logical brain.
Yeah. The snake analogy.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the snake,
It's a great one.
Yeah, you did it.
I can't even remember doing it, but that's the problem. I've spoken so much about all this. I'm like, what have I said before?
Maybe it was someone I spoke to after the show. Actually, I'm not even kidding. Maybe it was because I was just like, the snake analogy is great.
I don't mind the snake one because we've actually had that happen at our house.
Yeah, but it's just
We've had
practical.
a tiger snake in our backyard.
Yeah, no, God. Hey, I'm going to keep us going.
Yep.
How long until robot children and hologram children are considered real children?
I read that. I was like, I laughed. And then I was like, actually, there probably is a future where they exist, but also therapeutically.
Yeah.
As in if you've lost a child or you've got a child that you can't see at the time, that you can connect with them in that way.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Legit.
So I was like, my
an
initial
avatar?
thought was like, yeah,
Like talk to them.
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and thinking about, and it's really, so there's a little bit of evidence, I don't want to open up this Pandora's box, that teens who are in a mental health crisis feel more comfortable speaking to a chatbot about their mental health worries than a real person.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there's no judgment. It's third party.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing, mate, because that's like that evidence was surprised a lot of people, but not, but you can understand
Well,
it.
it's quick and accessible.
Mm.
To be honest, because I've done this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just me. Like I obviously learn a lot here, but if I need like scripts on how to address things quickly, I will say, this is the problem I'm having. Here's what I think the challenge is having with this person. And just to prompt me, just to get me thinking, get my mind switched. So you're so good at this. You do it all day. You've done it for a long time. And you've studied really hard and you're just practically in it all day. But I need constant prompting scripts just to get my mind switched constantly, to switch it back to, because my default for everything is, and I keep saying on this pod, I don't want to give it too much oxygen. I just want to push it forward. I don't want to breathe too much into this, mate. I don't want to give it bad oxygen.
You've had so much growth at that over the years.
I know, but I have to. I'm faced with it constantly. As a parent, every parent's faced with it. I choose to try and address it. That's what I'm trying to do. So I will whack a couple of lines into a chat GPT or something and go, this is it. And then I'll say, yeah, it's exactly the stuff you've taught me, precisely, but I just need, just because capacity and brain, I can't always draw on the stuff. Like when you ask me, like, oh, what's the model? I'm like, I can know the practical example. I can't articulate it, so I can't. And it takes practice, and that's just repetitive. Yeah. I need that repetition. Anyway.
Can't replace me yet, Nick.
No.
He's a friend, so don't start hanging out.
I'm not saying that, but like in the moment.
Totally.
That's all I'm saying.
No, and it also reminds me we need to do more script-based stuff. But anyway,
I just like it. That's me. Other people don't need it. These guys, it's the live show, people give me answers. You would ask me a question, they're like, connect. I'm like, oh. It's like someone's gunning for my job down there. I can't see you.
Mate, if they saw what it involved, the chaos and the vortex, they'd quickly step back out.
Hey, Billy, how do you teach your kids to accept things that cannot change?
So very quickly, because I'm taking too long on all this, you've got to be developmentally considerate and understand it, which understandably most people are not. So Piaget, we spoke about him probably 2 years ago. He can help us with this because he has stages of cognitive development. Okay. And what he talks about is that before 4, they do not. They're just in the moment, what's in front of them, sensations, all that stuff. Then we have pre-operational thinking, which is 4 to 7 years of age. From what they start emerging towards that is starting to ask why. So they're starting to use intuition, but they don't have the ability to really conceptualize it yet. Then they get concrete operational thinking, which is primary school. If we think about it just as those general age groups, there's a bit of variability in that, of course. And that's, I can understand stuff if it's directly in front of me and I can use basic logic for that. When we get proper operational, functional critiquing of things is when they can use abstract reasoning. And most of the time, we're putting pressure on kids too early to use abstract reasoning. So they can do kind of what we call inductive thinking, like I've got a big picture and I can relate it to something small. So people are friendly, so this person is going to be friendly. But sometimes if they go, but then they can learn about more complex aspects of interacting with people, as in someone is showing early signs of hostility, they might then become unsafe in the future. So I need to respond accordingly. And abstract reasoning is something that we put pressure on kids too early to understand. And thinking about the future can be really challenging. So the actual approach is think about how can I just sit with them and help them explore it, as opposed to expect them to be able to figure it out. One of the biggest mistakes we make with kids is trying to get them to expect to figure things out on their own way before they've got the actual cognitive ability to, regardless of how emotionally dysregulated they are or not.
Yeah. Got a little bit lost there.
Sorry.
How much you know something.
Well, yeah, I hope I don't know if I actually makes sense.
You recalled on something 2 years ago from a guy called Piaget, or girl. I don't know. Piaget.
There's a guy, but yeah. Eugene.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah, anyway. And still relevant. That's how amazing that goes.
Hey, Billy. More Fifth Element content.
Yeah, so yeah, people love that movie.
Yeah.
Do you know that the air hostesses' outfits were based on Madonna's?
Not shocked. Yep, that makes sense now that you say that.
Yeah. Did you know that Zorg and Corbin Dallas never meet each other? Quite unique in a movie.
Huh.
Good guy and bad guy never meet.
Nemesis. Wow. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
God, they might not have never been in the same set.
Yeah, we didn't talk much about, obviously we talked about the fashion, we talked about, some acting, the music's phenomenal.
Didn't talk about Luke Perry.
Yes,
I know,
Luke Perry.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cameo at the start.
Aziz, light! that's one of the best quotes. But yeah, Luke Perry. Where did he go?
I don't know. I think he passed. I don't know where he is.
Oh, gosh, I feel terrible.
No,
I thought maybe he moved away from.
No, I think he might have. Anyway, I don't know. I thought he might have passed away.
I was never a 90210. Were you?
I was, yeah. Dylan. He was so cool. High school kid with a Porsche, I think he had, from memory.
Really?
Yeah, I think he had a Porsche. I was
wow.
like, yeah. And another guy had like a Lambo, Steve Sanders. Anyway, don't start me on 90210. I was there. Hey, Billy, how real do I get with these innocent little minds? This comes back to, I think, what you were saying before.
Yeah, so just be careful.
Appropriate.
So I let them lead. So you know what I mean? Don't be
let them
like with the
lead.
toddler. You know, I
Don't
feel like we always need to go back to parenthood, but I feel like parenthood was good at like showing the extremes of this.
Tell me.
The little girl that they were doing there. Remember?
Which one's the square root of 137?
And so the problem is they're like, she's bright. Let's just put
Lean
an
into
adult, an adult expectation on her, and then she didn't have any social emotional capacity. So bright kids are always the most vulnerable to this stuff.
Yes.
Because we're like, well, let me tell you about the climate change. Let me tell you about conflicts happening overseas. Like, you know what I mean?
And it's often like, as a parent, you get this, but it's often like a grandparent or a friend, you know, someone who just goes, oh, God, they're bright. I'll talk to them about this. And you catch the convo, you're like, oh.
Yeah, we've never spoken.
I don't know. I don't even understand that. So
Yeah.
you're creating questions for me later.
Yeah,
Stop.
and then you start asking.
Hey, Billy, is just teaching resilience enough to future-proof kids?
What do you think?
No.
Yeah. It's probably a bit unfair to say why. So let's think about resilience very quickly as the ability to get back off
You
a
need
bike
to-
after you've fallen off it.
There's three things.
Mhm.
You need, I forget this one, love? No. You need
Oh,
three
yeah.
things. No,
Yeah, God, if there's one of the three, that's,
I got it
you're
wrong.
definitely right about those.
No. Love,
Well, what's the-
support, and no.
Well, what's the problem with, so let's think about the analogy of resilience helps you get up after you've fallen off the bike. What's the problem with just, what happens if the kid just constantly falls off the bike?
Oh, they need skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
What happens if they're really traumatized because they hurt themselves so badly previously falling off the bike?
Right. Yes,
Resilience
that's the
doesn't
other
help with
thing.
that.
Resilience doesn't help with trauma. Yes. You got to address the trauma
Yeah.
first.
If you don't have the skill.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. If you're actually not capable of doing it because someone's saying go down this almost vertical hill on a bike you've never ridden before, you're setting the kid up to just
Resilience won't
constantly
help,
fail.
yeah.
Resilience doesn't help there. So yeah, be really careful about, resilience as
Can
like
you just give me the
solve.
three resilience components again? Or was it five?
I can't, to be honest.
I'm sorry.
No.
Oh,
no,
sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
No, that's
you
fine.
Piaget'd me. You created this rod for your own back, mate.
Yeah. I can't even remember what movie I used resilience for.
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was before Love. So I can't even remember what we used for Love.
Maybe that's why I've conflated the two. Anyway,
Yeah, we ended the season on it.
let's
So,
just
yeah,
move.
I'll park it.
Oh, yeah, I've got to park it. I'm sorry. How to not worry about your kid's future when they can't pass subjects in school.
Mm.
God, I do worry about the future more than I thought.
Yeah. I remember when I first got into med school, one of my mum's friends got me to speak to their son who was in year 12 or something, who wasn't that interested in doing exams. I never heard from them again because I was like, it's not that big a deal. But you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not putting more pressure on this kid. I probably should have been more delicate about it. I was 23 at the time or 22 or something. But yeah, it's an interesting thing about there's way too much pressure on teenagers academically about this is going to determine the rest of your life.
Don't you just want to keep pace with the cohort?
Yeah, and also there's a reason. If a kid, we sit in clinic every day, I meet kids, and every day they are not where they should be at academically, and it is my job and the other professionals that are around them to figure out why. It's not, and it's very rarely try harder. You know what I mean? There's a reason. Even if they're just not motivated and they don't care anymore, there's a reason. So yeah, we'll talk more about. Maybe let's just talk about it here quickly.
Motivation.
There's always a reason about a behaviour, and kids that are anxious, like a lot of the questions that have come in, it is an adaptive process that has a reason. The kid that doesn't want to roll into the school and is getting upset, that is an adaptive process. You've got to understand why are they using that behaviour. There is always a reason, and how do we give them a gentle transition to a slightly healthier adaptive process? Does that make sense?
Mm.
So the kid, there's always a reason.
You got to figure it out. How do you figure it out?
So you think about what is going on in this kid's mind. You don't ask them. You think about, I wonder why you're so anxious about going into school, separating from me, getting up on stage and doing something, whatever. And some of those might seem easy, but you still got to think about what's the experience this kid is having. And then very quickly, just because I'm talking about it, if you're thinking about a kid who's struggling to attend school, first they need to be safe.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before.
Yep.
The second thing, which I probably haven't emphasized enough, is one of the biggest predictors of kids succeeding at school is a sense of belonging in that environment. And every single kid should have that. And that is how you protect them from future adversity in that space. I have a sense of belonging, and often that starts with relationships.
Yep.
There is one educator who genuinely gets me in this space. Every day I get to do something small with them that reinforces my sense of safety and belonging in this space. And then you transition it out to other educators, to other kids. You give them more and more autonomy, more and more activity based on that. The last thing that comes is academic learning. And remember, there'll be heaps of kids that no matter what happens, no matter how hard they try, they're never going to succeed academically. And that's actually okay, because it's not a very good predictor of future mental health or relationships.
And that's what we care about.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm taking ages.
No,
on
that's
short, sorry.
awesome. No, I love that one. Beautiful. Hey, Billy, talking to kids about current world events that are hard, like Gaza. Tips.
Yeah, so I'm going to do this. I just want to acknowledge that there was a fair few people that sent in stuff about being in a minority group, experiencing racism and persecution and threats of violence. And something happened on the news recently, or something that Annalise and I was like, imagine how awful that must be about having kids, that you're worried about that. Do you know what I mean? Because of their religion or their skin color or something like that, that you're like, man, I've got to guard you from this as well. Do you know what I mean? How absolutely awful. So we're going to do it as an entire topic because I can't do it justice. That's why none of those questions made it. But, you know, you've got to be gentle with it, and it's more about exploring their feelings and how they feel about it, because the vulnerability is that very well-intended people will be like, this is how you should feel about it. You should feel angry. You should feel like it's unacceptable and all those things. We want them to get to those values and those beliefs, but we got to be careful, especially with young kids. And also some of those things can be really traumatic to hear about. So that's why we talk about even in screen time, it's co-viewing, because you don't want them to see like awful stuff. You probably, I won't make you talk about it, but I've definitely got stuff that I've experienced even as an adult that I cannot get out of my brain, and I'll never be able to, because it was a traumatic image. It was a traumatic story I heard about, about something awful happening to someone, and that will never leave me now.
Yeah, no.
And
early internet days when I was like 12 or 13 seeing stuff going, whoa.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've got to be really careful. And just sometimes I think we can unintentionally be like, no, we need to sit down and have a talk about this.
Maybe that's a bit of a lie. I don't think the internet was around when I was 12, 13. That's how old I am, Billy.
Yeah, when was it? 90s?
90s, mid-90s. I remember seeing something and going, oh, my God. Hey, Billy, going to keep you moving. Someone wants to know about the future is lotto numbers.
I just thought that was
Can't help you on that particular one. Hey, my son has a medical illness and his future is very uncertain. How do I approach him about this?
Yeah. So validate your own feelings first, because God, cannot imagine that. Like, I've seen lots of kids. I've got a gorgeous kid at the moment who is literally has a neurodegenerative disease and doesn't know how much longer he'll live, and his body's failing him every time. He's less functional than the last time I saw him. I don't know how his mum comes in and is like happy to see me and all this stuff, but he will not make it to adulthood, and is this gorgeous, affectionate kid. And yeah, I get paid to see him and like hold his hand and smile and like stuff like that. And every time I'm like, he always seems to come at the right time as well when I'm getting stressed about little stuff, and then he comes in, I have an appointment with him. He's a gorgeous kid going through some awful stuff as well. So yeah, really thinking about our own feelings, because I think that self-sacrifice of those parents can be really understandable, but it often makes that experience more traumatic for the adults that are around them. How can you really gently explore how that kid feels about it? And when my mum was diagnosed, I never saw her get upset about it. I'm still kind of traumatized by that. She's like, she first told she got 9 months to live, and she just went, cool, got to sort out the will, got to sort out this. Never saw her angry, never saw her upset about it. And I kind of needed to be honest. You know what I mean? because I was really angry about it and I was really upset about it. And then I had this shame of feeling guilty. It's happening to her, not me. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that full emotional range of expression is really important, and not thinking about like, we've just got to get through this, you know, and thinking about it's valid to have those, and then what can we do? And like thinking about like, this is like, we're not in this situation, but you and I talk a lot about, we just want our kids to have rich memories and experiences of being with us, don't we?
Yeah.
Because I worry about it, mate. I was an adult. I was like 22 when my mum got diagnosed. Like, it was still really traumatizing. That's what I'm worried about. I'm literally, that's one of my biggest worries about the future. Like, conceptually is the environment. I worry about not being around for my kids. I speak to my therapist about that. And he does that. He's like, that must feel awful. And then he tries to get my logic brain. He's like, you're healthy. You know medically what are the chances that you're going to get a brain tumor, you know, in the next decade, like all of that stuff. But that's what I worry about. I'm like, far out. But once again, you're not going to like this compliment. But you buffer me a little bit as well, because I'm like, you will be around if I'm not around. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
For my kids. Awful thing to think about, but...
Awful thing to think about. Oh, just made back to the start of your answer there. It just makes me want to celebrate my kids a bit harder. Like that kid you get to meet who's sick. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, but celebrate yourself with your kids as well.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Don't put pressure on yourself to be even better because you hear that story.
Yep.
Celebrate how phenomenal a dad you are now.
Yep. These are the best shorts you've done, by the way.
I've stuffed up. I couldn't remember these three steps.
You've covered a lot of, doesn't matter.
I went so deep on Piaget that I don't know if it actually helped. Anyway.
Best shorts you've done. This is the most in this. I'm going to pump that up in the preview. It's so good. Hey, Billy, got two more. How do you explain that setbacks are part of the journey?
I've got something, but I'll let you go.
No, I often furnish this example of where I have setbacks constantly. Not to gloss over theirs, but I'm like, yeah, it's tough. Like I've gotten to this language recently, and I don't think it's right, and I'm not even sure if it works. I just sort of go, my kids will stuff something up socially and they'll dwell on it. And I'll go, yeah, like, and that was me as a kid ruminating on those sorts of things. And I'll go, that's really tough. I honestly have felt that. And I try and show them in the moment when I stuff something up. I don't do it deliberately. Sends me enough opportunities to tell them about it. I mean, like, I forgot that person's name and I feel terrible about that. Or
I hate that one.
Something like that. And I'll go, really? I'm like, yeah. And they go, you know, like, it's hard to tell though, isn't it? Like I hide it a bit, but yeah, I didn't know. And I felt bad, or I said something then that I shouldn't have said. And I think I upset that person. And I'll be like, really? And I'll be like, yeah. I still stuff this stuff up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not sure that answers this question. So how about you give a good answer?
It's a really good answer.
The setbacks are part of the journey.
You said a couple of really important things, and I don't want to. I always make this about me, but
go.
I've had so many setbacks. I've failed, like, kicked out of high school. I've literally failed probably most exams. I failed med school after my mum died. I had to sit the final year med exams, failed by a point, found out just after I'd spread her ashes in Ireland, had to come back and resit my med school exams because I was within the range of you getting to resit. Then failed my subspecialty examination twice. You get one crack at it a year, you get 3 shots before you get kicked off the program. Had to pick myself up after failing it twice to have my final shot at it. If you'd have said to me at the time when I got that in the mail, like, or email or whatever it is, you've failed. If someone said, mate, this is a part of life. Do you know what I mean?
Even at what, 26 or something, you wouldn't have been able to cope with that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So how do you do it? Okay, yes, it's really good example of.
So think about what do you do when a kid falls off the bike and really hurts themselves? I know I'm kicking this analogy to death, but what do you do?
One. You don't tell them to try harder.
Do you go, this is a part of learning how to ride a bike? When do you do it?
I've seen some people say that to their kids. I definitely haven't. I've so done that. I go, mate, yeah, it's like, this is tough. This is what we all go through.
Yeah, do you know the worst time I do it? Do you know the worst time I do that? I've been doing this just to show that I'm not perfect. Where I'll tell them not to do something and I'll do it and it hurts them. And I'm like, I told you.
Oh, yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
It's not good. I've been doing it. I've been like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, don't say it.
But hold on, the one on the bike one, you do say it because you're like, hey, it's not a big deal.
Well, it depends. If they're really distraught, you
I
don't
know,
do.
and I've got one that's now riding and one that doesn't want to do it. So it's worked for one, but not the other. So there's
Yeah.
a good example because they've got different temperaments and stuff. So tell me
Dang, look at that.
give me the. Still can't teach one of them, and that's on me. Tell me, just give me the. Just stick to the bike now.
So you learn-
what's a better one?
So you learn it retrospectively. So when you're nailing the bike and you don't fall off anymore, you can sit there and reflect on it.
That's when you can talk about setbacks.
Yeah.
Not in the moment.
Because that helps with future ones and developing that cognitive understanding.
What would you do in the bike one if they're just fed up? Not fed up to the point the point where I think we can keep doing it. How do I keep them on?
What do you think? You increase the support and drop the demand.
Yeah.
Give them a smaller
Let's go a bit slower.
hurdle to
Let's
jump
go
over
20
to feel
metres.
success.
Yeah, okay. A shorter hurdle.
And do not push them through it.
No, not looking for stretch. Looking for success.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
and
why we do it
stretch can
short
be
time.
success, but just if you don't want kids crying through, do you know what I mean? Because
No.
people look back and be like, oh, he bawled his eyes out, but he did it. You're like, yeah, well, I was about to say in 30 years when he's sitting in therapy, but I don't want to exaggerate it and make it that like distraught. Those things are all repairable without setting them up for lifetime of therapy. But this is what we're all just aiming for.
Cool. Hey, Billy,
Last short, is it?
is it okay not to sweat the small stuff? Yes.
Yes, 100%. The reason I put that in is that stupid catchphrase of "don't sweat the small stuff." Do you know what I mean? I hate that saying. You grew up with that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Hey, don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah,
Firstly, it's possibly not small to me, just because it's small to you.
I definitely wouldn't say that. It's true. There's a few things that are kill. Hey,
Yeah,
fair
let's
dinkum,
go.
and I'm going to say it again, best shorts you've ever done because you don't just stick to the...
Well, let's say it's like, when you take a really good catch and then you do a terrible kick, it probably means I'm going to start up the longs. But you know what I mean? You
Longs
often do
could be
that.
rough, but
I
that's-
take it like I never played footy, but God, I can mark a ball. And God, I can kick one.
I excelled when it came to non-contact footy. Seriously.
Yeah,
I was
believe it.
so good when it was no tackling and required physicality. Hey, Billy, reflections. Let's roll. You are going with
Sorry.
number one.
Yes, and sorry, yeah, I even forgot about the reflections. But number one, hi Nick and Billy. I'm writing this from a train to Frankston, bang, after seeing Acme live show. Amazing and powerful stuff, and I was really stoked to see you guys work. Your easy magic in person. I've been a huge fan since I heard Billy do the end of the season review apps on the How Are the Dad's Dad podcast. Shout out to Hamish. Billy struck me as the voice of reason and scientific insight after hearing all the normal dads talk about how they work it out on their own. I'd like to say thank you for what you're doing here. It's not an exaggeration to say that you're genuinely making the world a better place. To help parents raise better kids through compassion, insight into developing minds, and deliberate practice will, for the families you reach, have knock-on effects for generations. Do you know one of the most beautiful bits of feedback we ever got is you're helping kids that'll never know you helped them.
Yeah, it's nice.
God, that just echoes through my life, that feedback.
Makes us keep going.
Yeah. Anyway, not many of us can genuinely claim to contribute so profoundly to society. I'm not sure if that's true. I meet lots of people who do without the accolades that we get, or I get. When I consider my own largely selfish financial motivation in my career, I feel put to shame. Billy, if meeting your own needs means helping out countless others, just go with it. We need you. You guys have definitely made me a better dad. I certainly haven't got it all worked out, and I expect I never will. You've given me tools to connect better with my kids and to navigate tense moments like meltdowns far better than I otherwise would have. This is so valuable to me that words can't do it justice. I have two beautiful kids, 3 and 4, boy and girl respectively. They're adopted half-siblings who are to date developing beautifully into curious, fun and kind little humans. The Beautiful Boys episode was particularly important for us. My little boy, like most 3-year-old boys, is starting to express signs of male forcefulness. We have no cause for concern, but I can see the development in action and possible future boys he might come to be. I'm thrilled and full of praise when I see him looking after his soft toy babies, putting them to bed and making sure they're okay. Billy calling out pop culture depictions of masculinity so clearly and damningly, you punch someone in the face and you're the good guy, is a voice this world needs. I also want to thank you guys for just being so open and valuable. I'm not embarrassed to admit, as a 48-year-old man, I find your role models for me personally. I know that if I listen to you and on the way to work, I hear myself being more considerate and thoughtful when dealing with colleagues. This stuff rubs off. I've had moments of bike rage in the past, and I'm proud when I handle a difficult situation with calm and maturity, not falling victim to my emotions and actions in a way I immediately regret. You guys have helped with this. I'm lucky that you have 2 kids at similar ages to mine. I only hope you keep going for long enough to help guide us through the teenage years. Keep doing what you're doing. Anyway, I would have loved to shake your hands and said this in person, but that's not really my style. I don't think I would have been comfortable saying all this in a bar after the show. My only bone to pick is that you've made me cry in public more than once. I had to turn off Billy's imperfect episode while cycling to work, so I get myself together before arriving. The Connection Edward Scissorhands Reflections episode had me tearing up while watering the garden. Actually, don't change a thing. I'll just work on being comfortable crying in public. Got some recent feedback. I cannot remember the Edward Scissorhands Connection Reflection, but a few people have said that was amazing.
Good stuff. Hey, so I'm doing this thing where you tell people the good things you think instead of just thinking them, but I'll keep it quick because time. I've listened for a year or so every episode, starting at Rambo. I'm a paramedic, generally out of either Frankston or Dandenong. FYI, since listening and making some changes, I've not used medical or chemical restraints, not once. Thanks for helping avoid traumatising the already traumatised. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Mechanical or chemical restraints. So like physically restraining someone or using medications, which is amazing.
Did I say that wrong?
No, you did it great. It also reminded me, I remember Rambo, how much he loved that one.
Oh, yeah. Just wanted a snack. Wouldn't let me. It's like, it was so good. Tantrums. It's really fun. You do a great job there. That was one of your best.
It's so funny because I'll think about it for days and days before I get to present it to you, and I'm like so excited to do it, and then I'm like a little kid because then I get to watch your reaction.
For those who haven't listened to it, go back and listen to episode 1. I want to ruin it, but you've got to go and listen to it. Basically, it's a tantrums episode, and all Rambo is doing in First Blood is having a tantrum, and it's because he didn't get a snack.
And then he's up in the mountain in the bunker.
He's up in the mountain, and he's talking to Colonel Troutman. He goes, Rambo, you've done a lot of damage here. He goes, yeah, I just wanted a meal. I just wanted a snack. And it's like, your tantrum has really exceeded just needing a snack, pal.
I don't think a lot of people can feel like that.
I'm like, yeah. So like a lot of people would write us go, I keep muesli bars in my handbag for my husband or partner because they get angry. They give them a muesli bar. I just thought it was really good.
Anyway, hi Nick and Billy. I've been listening for a while now. First as a teacher trying to figure out how to better care for my students, and now as a mother. There's been a few episodes I've wanted to write in, but never thought what I had to say was overly important or someone else would probably say it better. The most recent episodes about the future resonate with me on so many levels and seem to tie all of the thoughts and feelings from previous episodes together. When I was younger, I never really thought about my future. I grew up in a regional town in Queensland and never really felt I fit in. I had an abusive alcoholic father who thankfully my mum divorced. I was bullied pretty consistently through primary and high school, and I was sexually assaulted at 16. While everyone else was figuring out what they wanted to do at uni and TAFE, I was thinking of ways to kill myself. Thankfully, due to some sort of divine intervention and my mum coming home early from work, I was unsuccessful. A couple of months after finishing high school, I packed my life up, lied to my mum about how much money I had, and moved to Melbourne. This led me to wander kind of aimlessly through my 20s while I found other ways to self-harm. Excessive drug use, partying, and a lot of risk-taking behaviour I look back on and think, thank God I'm lucky I survived that. At 28, I found myself living back in the same regional town I was so desperate to run away from. Still with no idea about what I wanted to do with my life, but I finally took my mum's advice and came home to heal. During this time, I lost a close friend to suicide, and this catapulted me into some deep reflection. I enrolled in a Masters of Teaching, moved back to Melbourne, and finally started to feel like I had a purpose. The dust started to settle, and I could finally see a future. Everything changed. I finished my Masters, started working in a school I loved, met my now husband during lockdowns, and birthed my beautiful baby girl last August. I'm now filled with a new anxiety, her future. I worry so much about what the world will be like for her. I worry about how I'm going to raise a strong, confident, emotionally intelligent woman. I worry about who she'll end up dating and whether they'll be safe. I worry if she feels loved and secure. Although there's so much anxiety, I'm also filled with so much excitement. My mum did what my grandmother couldn't. She divorced her alcoholic, abusive husband. I've thankfully married a man nothing like my father. He's kind, gentle and strong, the perfect example of healthy masculinity. With all the anxiety I have about her future, I know that the two of us will do everything we can to ensure she has a better life than we did. There's so much hope and excitement. What her first words will be, what she'll be interested in as she grows up, if the grip strength in her legs and feet are anything to go by, it will be jiu-jitsu like her father. This is probably more of a reflection email than a question, but my one question is, how do you stop yourself from projecting your past traumas and anxieties onto your children? Thank you so much for the podcast. It's helped shape me in so many ways. I told all the parents in my parents group and my colleagues at work about it. So we'll answer that a little bit. So I kind of thought this wouldn't be that emotional one, but
It was.
we'll, my answer to that question will come in the other questions, but just in short, we'll do it together. What an amazing human.
Amazing.
Anyway.
Yeah, tremendous. Yes, okay. Hey guys, it doesn't get any better than this. Last night, as I was putting her to bed, my 8-year-old daughter asks, "Why do you love us so much?" Think we must be doing something right. Or she's overly clingy, uncertain in her attachment, seeking validation, trying to one-up her brother, doubting her self-esteem, anxious, thinks she's a bad kid, or is too sensitive. 90 episodes in, 12 weeks is a lot to take in. Cheers.
Just always so amazed by people that like find it and then just binge it. Must be so. They must listen to our small talk at like 5 speed. Because imagine hearing the same jokes.
Oh, they'd be like, geez, they really reused that gag. Someone could really level us, I reckon, Billy.
But isn't it beautiful? Why do you love us so much? What a great question to be asked by a kid that you care about.
Oh, the best.
Hi, Nick and Billy. I've been a long-time listener and your podcast on the future seemed like the perfect time to write in. I've got an 8-year-old beautiful autistic boy and a 4-year-old adorable girl with global developmental delay. As you can imagine, my partner and I are pretty stretched between supporting the kids, work and getting any well-being for ourselves. We don't have any family support. But what I wanted to write in about was hope, particularly how your podcast has helped me have hope and provide hope in actionable ways for my son. He's in year 3 now, but when he started kindy, he experienced extreme school trauma at our local public school. He was identified autistic when he was 4, but the school refused to implement any of the strategies his OT and psychologist suggested, resulting in repeatedly absconding from school at 5 years old. After 6 months and repeated bullying from the principal, we had no choice but to remove him for his own mental health. He wasn't eligible for any support within the mainstream system or a spot in a supported unit, as in a specialist school. We applied to private schools and were accepted until we told them his diagnosis, at which point they refused him. I homeschooled him for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Initially, I was terrified to homeschool, but as it turns out, I'm awesome at homeschooling. I'm an academic, so teaching a curriculum is no problem, and he loves being with his sister. They've had a brilliant time together. We bought a caravan and have had a brilliant couple of years exploring parts of Australia I've never seen before. But the experience also built in a new, deeply held belief in my son, that schools are a bad place, that he didn't fit in, and he was incapable of going to one. We were stuck with that belief, and I honestly didn't know how we were going to move through. Last year, I found your podcast and read your book. My son's psychologist also suggested it was time to look at school again. He has severe separation anxiety since the school trauma, but in the last 18 months, we built him back up, so he now has 3 group clubs a week, and he attends without us, and several friends' places. He's happy to do play dates without us. With your podcast on school success and school refusal in my pocket, I started looking for the right school again. I got numerous emails from local schools telling me they don't take out-of-area enrolments. I applied to 4 that didn't take him or were rejected based on his diagnosis. I applied to 2 specialist schools and was accepted and placed on the wait list for a spot. I toured them with my son, both of which gave him panic attacks because the doors were securely locked and the kids had loud verbal stims which overwhelmed him and made him feel trapped. I realised just how broken the system is. I was ready to give up and go back to homeschooling. I put in one last out-of-area application, a little school, only 100 kids, 2 suburbs from us, accepted. We went for a tour there. The principal and teacher are amazing. There's a big outdoor area with gum trees and all the kids are free to go wherever they feel overwhelmed. The principal keeps her office as a safety sensory space for anyone who needs it throughout the day. A lot of amazing principals do that. Some that I've introduced you to personally, that their office is the safe place for kids to come to. It's amazing. My son agreed to come back the next day and the next. That was the beginning of term 1. He went every day of term 1. By the end of term, we were doing 3 to 4 hour days. By the last week of term, I could leave for 30 to 45 minutes to grab a copy and he was fine. The whole time I've had your words in my head of providing support and then slowly pulling it back. I realise that pulling it back is a lot slower than most parents would think, but it's right for my son and what he needs to rehabilitate back into the school system. I'm so incredibly grateful for your podcast motivating me. I probably wouldn't have kept trying if it hadn't been for you guys. I'm also very grateful to have found a school that supports not just him, but all the kids I see supported there. Many schools see that kids aren't may more schools see that kids aren't cookie cutters and they aren't the labels you see on the page. They're individuals that need to be treated as such. Today is the first day of term 2. It's a rainy one, but my son is still keen to go back. He says he's missed it over the school holidays. What a win. Thank you so much for reading this far. I know it was a long one, but keep up the good work. You're making a difference in so many people's lives, both young and not so young. Can't wait for the live show. Come to Sydney.
One got me too.
Last reflection.
Oh, God. I haven't read it. Is it all right?
It's all right.
It's all right?
Yeah.
That was amazing. Number 6. Hi, Dr. Nick and Billy. Good start. Lighter start. I don't know if it's going to be a funny one, so I feel bad laughing at the start of some of these sometimes. I've written to you both. I've written to you both 1,000 times in my head, but putting it into words now feels so overwhelming. There's so much I don't want to forget. I was introduced to your podcast by my incredible CAFHS.
Child and Family Health Service nurse. Sorry.
Yep, when I was struggling with my 18-month-old tantrums. Not a ginger, but she's definitely got the fiery spirit of her ginger dad. From the first episode, I was hooked, listening eagerly, excited to learn. I come from a world shaped by trauma. For a long time, I genuinely questioned whether I should have children, fearing I might pass on the pain. But after a long journey, we were blessed with a beautiful baby girl. From that moment, I found out I was pregnant. I wasn't reading about pregnancy. I was all about parenting. I knew it would be hard, but I wasn't prepared for how triggering it would be, how many times wounds would resurface. Your episode on trauma was absolutely sensational. It gave me so many aha moments and allowed me to reflect on my own childhood with a newfound clarity. It was beautifully done. Thank you. Listening to you and the PCP community has brought me so much comfort. In a world where Instagram makes it seem like everyone is getting it perfect, your podcast made me feel seen and far less alone. Billy, you're such an incredible soul. The way you wear your heart on your sleeve is beautiful. I've cried with you more times than I can count. Your knowledge is astounding, but what's even more comforting is hearing you share your own struggles. It makes it all so real. Your passion is infectious, and I truly hope you can take in all the compliments you receive. They are valid and so well deserved. I work in dental and I try so hard to be the best I can. I love building lasting relationships with the parents, watching them grow over the years. With the patients. Build relationships with my patients, watching them grow over the years. When one of them tells me they've started flossing, I literally break into song. Every tooth save feels like a small victory for their overall health. Nick, I've sighed and had the penny drop at the exact same time as you on so many occasions. Don't ever apologise when you get stuck on something Billy says, because 99% of the time, I'm stuck right there with you. I have dyslexia, and hearing you read is so soothing and validating. I've always had anxiety about reading out loud, even in front of family. So thank you for making me feel seen. I also wish we all had a Nick who showed up with food and helped tidy up. You're a remarkable human. Your recent episode really hit home. I can't count how many times I've trimmed or watered the council trees on our street during heat waves. I've been feeling that same anxiety about climate change in the future. In response, my husband and I have made the unusual decision to buy a small property where we're working hard to revegetate the land and give back to nature. If you're ever in the area and want to plant a tree, you're welcome to come. Though I've never met, every episode feels like a catch-up with old friends. I recommend your podcast to anyone who'll listen. Like you, I'm lucky to have a supportive partner who understands my strange. And to your partners, thank you for all you do so these fine men can make the podcast happen. Please know you're making a difference. I feel seen, less alone, and filled with hope. P.S. A huge thank you to the mum who shared the Mr. 3 supermarket condom story. I needed that laugh during a time when my daughter's tantrums made even leaving the house feel impossible. I was being way too hard on myself, and the moment gave you permission to breathe. If you're ever in Adelaide, I'd love to shout you a beer.
Amazing. Sorry, they were heavier than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, they really built up, didn't they?
Yeah.
They really built up.
And it's just the order. I kind of put them in the
I
order they come.
was thinking a lot during all those questions. Got lost a few times when you were reading your reflections. There's something about today.
All right, I'll go quickly through the longs, I promise.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let's say I'm reading them, mate. Or do I just sit here while you read an answer?
I promise I'll be tight.
I'm just yeah, okay. Hey, number one. Hi, Billy and Nick. Absolutely love your podcast. It's so informative and supportive all in one. Gives me a good laugh and makes me smile in the relatively tough season we are in at the moment. I also credit listening to your podcast as helping support my mental health as a parent. As you respond to others' questions, I feel seen and acknowledged in the struggle and perseverance. Great word. My question is on helping to support kids with that struggle with fear and anxiety around trying new things or things they find difficult. Our son is 4.5-year-old, sensitive child and a little on the slower end of reaching developmental milestones. He's been struggling to try new things or things he finds difficult at home and kinder. And we really want to find ways to better support him to feel more comfortable trying new difficult things and being able to accept the outcome, whatever that might be. He generally has a low frustration tolerance, which we are working on, so not sure how much this and potentially perfectionistic tendencies are impacting on his ability to give things a try. I'd love your thoughts and suggestions.
Great question.
Ripper.
Frustration tolerance, 2 ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional regulation, skill acquisition.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You fall off the bike.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get better at frustration tolerance?
Lower.
You get better at regulating your emotions when you don't succeed initially at something, and you build the skills in being able to do it better.
Mm-hmm.
Either of them independently do not help frustration tolerance.
Hang on. You lost me just in the last bit.
So if you get better at riding the bike, but you don't help with emotional regulation, then you'll get just frustrated at other things.
Oh. So the bike is an opportunity to get better at both.
Yeah, to get better at frustration tolerance.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you help them. You help them in understanding, identifying, accepting, validating that emotion, and then helping regulate it. And then you help them get better at the skill that is causing frustration. Talk about this with Evie and Lego all the time. If I help her regulate her emotions, but she never gets better at Lego, I'm not actually helping her frustration tolerance. If I help her get better at Lego, but she still blows up over other things she fails at, I'm not helping her with her frustration tolerance. I have to do both. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So anytime you find that a child is increasingly or concerningly frustrated all the time, emotional regulation and skill acquisition in the things they care about that cause them frustration. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you think about one of the things the girls getting increasingly or constantly frustrated by, you need to do those 2 things. There's no point just teaching them how to get better at it because you're missing an opportunity to develop their emotional regulation skills. There's no point just connecting with their emotions if you don't actually help them get better at the thing they care about.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Follow up. Weird question. Sorry. I know I don't have all the time in the world. On something like the bike, this is a real sticking point for me because I feel like it's something a kid should do. But to your point around if they're not passionate about it, does it really matter? I find something like riding a bike, swimming, this is a personal thing, but I think that that'd be pretty typical of a parent.
Yeah.
Do I have to manage that or do I have to find ways for the kids to feel passionate about riding the bike?
Great question. God, this might be a long one, but this is so, God, there's some great stuff coming out of you. There always is. But why do you care about that?
Well, to be serious, to be honest, I'd worry if someone threw a party at a traffic school when my kid couldn't ride a bike. If other kids were at developmental age where everyone's riding the bike, I'd worry about that. I think it's just one of those things you point to also that you go, you're good at that, and a lot of other kids are good at it.
Yeah.
And it's a physical thing. And it also opens up things. The third thing is it opens up things socially for people because riding a bike's nice. And I don't want to be isolated and not able to ride a bike.
Yeah. What happens if she's never going to be good at riding a bike? She doesn't care about it, or
She might feel bad about herself.
how will you protect her from that?
I don't know.
So you validate that emotion that she's having, but then what do you do to buffer? How do you build secure self-esteem? Right back to Pretty Woman.
Take me back here. Sorry. I'm out. No.
They succeed at the things they put effort into that they care about.
Yep.
Make sure, might not be the bike, might not be swimming. Make sure there's multiple other things that are like that. So when they're at a traffic school party and the younger kids are riding bikes better, or they're not even capable of riding the bike, you can then make sure that you bring into the narrative the stuff that you can do straight after it that'll help them feel good about it themselves. And then the opportunity to learn if they care about it. But also, maybe you don't care about it.
Okay. Yep.
Does it actually matter?
It matters if it matters to them, and I
Yep.
think it will matter to them at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it matters so much to me,
Well, there's a reason.
and I'm just projecting
And
that
it's
onto them.
a valid reason. I'm not dismissing your reason.
No. I mean, I know
It's
why
probably
it matters.
because you're worried that she's going to be in a social setting.
Where she can't.
Yeah,
She'll feel
and
bad.
she'll feel inferior to the other kids because she
Yeah.
can't do it.
I've seen both my kids go through small things like this, just minute things, and that makes me so sad.
Same. But if I watch and if Evie struggles with it, then we come home and work on it. I've done that with heaps of different things with Evie,
Cool.
where she struggles with something and then we come home, we practice it. We practice getting better at it without pressure. And then I celebrate her when she's able to do it in front of the other kids. But I only do that when she cares about it, not when I care about it.
Okay.
It's a really good question, though.
Cool. No worries. Hi, Nick and Billy. Wow, amazing live today. I love it. Oh, that's good. That means they were there. You guys do an amazing job working with our wonderful PCP community. I wanted to ask this question in person, but there were so many others, and I decided I wanted to give them the space to chat to you, as there was parents who I have no doubt wanted some of your magic. I work as an educator and wellbeing specialist in a high school very close to where Billy grew up. I love the story Nick told about his daughter's school disco. One thing I cannot stand is someone who experiences anxiety, and seeing it in students is when people say, "You'll be fine." Often this comes up for Year 12 students in response to exams. I've worked so hard to teach about emotion coaching instead of emotion dismissing, and felt validated to hearing Billy say something similar today. My question is about considering the future in relation to technology. I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on this. I'm so anxious about the future for humans, and especially kids who grow up in such a tech-based world. I wonder what the implications long-term will be, specifically for the dopamine reward pathway and a society where effort is continually removed from our lives. What advice do you have for teachers and parents based on this? Love everything you do. Keep up your amazing work. You are changing and helping shape lives.
Relate to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm going to go back to the specific part of the question.
We'll say, yeah, girls always
What
want
advice
to
do
be
you
on
have
the
for
screen.
teachers and parents based on this? Yeah, I'm worried about the screen stuff. Yeah. I think we're balancing it, and we're probably using our screens less because we know what's coming.
Yeah. So you're thinking about the future,
Yeah.
but you've got a value-based plan that you're acting on.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, amazing. Also, I think I've spoken about this a fair bit, so I don't want to get too bogged down, and we should do social media as well in a future topic. But yeah, the dopamine stuff is true, but once again, what is the reason that the kid, if they're dysfunctionally using tech, what is the reason? They're bored, they're anxious, they're dissociating,
They struggle
it's a
to
stress
connect
relief,
socially.
struggle to connect socially. It's a really
Soothing.
great example. A lot of neurodivergent kids we see in clinic, the only social interactions they have are on gaming.
Yeah, because they're not as well seen.
Yeah. So if I just go, oh my God, they're playing games 3 hours a day, get rid of it, lock it away.
Don't do that.
Beautiful. Why don't you do that?
Well, because it's probably their only way to connect socially, and there's like a good screen in between, like a buffer, a filter in between them and what they think they can manage and not. So, like, if it's only a comment section in a video or stream or a live stream, and they struggle to connect, they can just drop in a comment, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it'll probably get streamed on over the top. I can see it.
So what do you do? But my kid doesn't have any friends, and they just game for 3 hours a day. What am I meant to do? I just want to get rid of the screen. They're meant to have friends.
Well, you got to probably go all the way back and like drop all the demand about just having friends, because they're going to struggle if you put them in a 4-hour play date or a McDonald's party. You know?
How do you do it then?
Well, like, I think a kid, like, so there's real extremes. There's kids that, I know kids that don't have friends that just live on screens.
Yeah.
Like, I know that. So this wouldn't apply for them. But then I also have, like...
I think it does apply for them.
Sorry.
Yeah, because you're saying it so well.
Yeah, sorry. This does not apply for them. But, like, I think about, like, I've been really consciously having shorter play dates at the moment. Speaking to one of my sister-in-laws the other day, and I was just like... She just seemed to cruise through parenting, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And then when I actually chatted to her, she's like, oh, no. I was like, really? You used to do that? She goes, yeah, mate, like short and structured. You can't just leave them to play by themselves. And it's like 2-hour cap. I was like, I thought you used to just whack them all together because that's all I saw. She goes, no, mate, not if you want.
Why are you doing that?
Just so they feel great.
Yeah.
And you actually kill the play date when they're having a great time.
Yeah.
I've been doing it.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we want to play together.
Is it working?
Yeah. It's amazing.
I actually think of George Costanza when he leaves on the high. That's the joke.
I don't know how we got there on this and whether this is useful, but my point is,
useful.
sorry, back to the screen.
Yeah, because we're thinking about why they're on the screens and what are you actually worried about? What are you actually worried about? If they're on tech all the time, what are you actually worried about? I'm worried they don't have friends.
Yeah, they don't have
I'm
friends.
worried they're not sleeping. I'm worried they're doing this.
Yeah.
Then address that in the same way you've just beautifully described. You do it gently with purpose,
and maybe
low demand, high chance of success.
Yeah, and maybe it's like literally going to an old school LAN gaming cafe where they're like there's actual physical people around, but they're all still just gaming.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
amazing. I used to do that.
Did you?
With
Yeah.
mates. Oh, hell
You ever seen, this will show how old we are, but there's a famous photo of them all playing and the guy's like been duct taped to the ceiling.
It's awesome.
He's hanging off the...
Yeah, it's so good. LAN gaming is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Gaming stuff. I've actually just started playing Minecraft because it's a big blind spot for me. Have you played Minecraft?
No, I haven't. I can't have video games.
Yeah, you've never been really big video games.
Oh, I was, yeah. That's the problem. Yeah, like I get lost in those.
I remember once I said that I was like analyzed on a long shift. This was before Evie was born. And I was like, I'm going to, just have some beers and play some video games. And you just had this like glimmer in your eye. Because I think when he was in the world and you were like, oh man.
I can't, I've got too many things that I like. Tell you what, there'll be no citrus next year if I get a video game machine, mate. Sorry, can you answer this person's question?
So
about...
definitely. So the screens, yes. Be worried about tech, but don't like tech is definitely, tech is a neutral thing. It gets used in harmful ways and it can be detrimental. But thinking about what's going on underneath and how can I gently build them towards a thing that I wish they were doing instead.
Yep. Cool.
Okay.
We got to move.
Yeah, let's move.
We have to move. Sorry to do that too, but yeah, we've got a bit to get through. Hello, Bohemians. Love your work still and find it really has a positive effect on my mental health just hearing you two go back and forth on our journey through parenthood. I've written in before and have 4 kids, girl 21 and 18 and boys 9 and 5. Quick question regarding the future. I understand how we can lead by example with our kids, but I'm currently tangling with the older kids and how they can have a say in their future through voting and ethics in their spending, but I don't want to cause more fear and anxiety about the big bad world. Cost of living pressures really make it hard to spend ethically, and the youth are obviously some of the most vulnerable as they forge a path in their own future. Feel free to crop this to a more coherent, direct question. Stay classy, and I'm crossing all my extremities that your live show comes within striking distance of the Northern Rivers, New South Wales. Oh, set up residency in Byron, I reckon.
Us and Chris.
Just play to like 4 people a week. This is where we need to be. Tell everyone.
So very quickly, so a lot of teenagers in clinic, the big bias that we have is we don't create space for them to have their voice. And so we often, and this is a really well-intended parent, wanting to be like, well, I've got to help them navigate their values, especially when they've got competing pressures of like wanting to spend money ethically, but also they're financially strained, thinking about like hierarchy of needs. But also one strategy that's really helpful is called active listening. We didn't talk about it last time. Do you know what active listening is?
No, you tell it.
So active listening is I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm actually genuinely, I'm not just hearing you. That's a physical process. I'm really focusing on what your experience is and trying to understand you. And it feels uncomfortable because you have to give way more pause, space. You also do a couple of different strategies. You reflect back. So what you're saying is that you don't really know what active listening is?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell me more about that? Like what do you think it might mean?
Play things back to the person.
Yeah. Summarise all of those things. And we should do it with teens about this stuff. We should do it with all kids, but especially teens because it'll keep them talking. And you don't want to, the biggest thing we have with teens is like, well, no, this is what you should actually do. This is what you should think about it. This is, So a really important thing. Active listening. We might talk about it in detail when we've got a bit more time, but active listening with teens around this stuff is really important and it can help them process it.
Love it.
And you can actually be supportive.
Got it. So that's what that person can do with their older kids. Beautiful. Hi there. I have these thoughts come to my mind often when I listen to your podcast. But this last episode about the future seems to tie all together well for what I want to reflect on. Let me begin by saying that what you are doing is so powerful. Billy, the positive work that you speak about, the positive way you speak about any child is one of the best things I've heard. Every child needs a champion in their corner cheering them on. Nick, your own questions, reflections and honesty make the podcast even more relevant, relatable. While I am a parent, I am also a primary school teacher and listen to your podcasts more from my perspective as a teacher. I love my job and I understand the profound impact that I can have when I create a classroom for students where they are safe and can learn. It is not lost on me that within my classroom, I can indeed be the change that I wish to see in the world. I don't need to go into detail of my teaching experiences, etc. I just want to say that I'm worried about the future of kids. Over the past decade, the 2 changes I've seen. The severity and frequency of challenging behaviours has increased so much that the threshold for access funding and supports has increased, which leaves a lot of the kids without. This means that what would have warranted support several years no longer makes the cut. I'm sure, Billy, you have seen this trend reflected in a clinical space too. And number 2, the increase in students with general anxiety and stress is significant. It's just like it came out of nowhere that these kids from these beautiful families woke up and felt the fear of the world. How can these challenges be worked on? How can these kids overcome their barriers? As teachers, we do professional development on wellbeing topics, but what can be done? Do universities teach enough about child development, mental health and trauma in their teaching degrees? These things worry me. Then I listen to you two on your podcast and I feel so less alone because I'm reminded that yes, there are others out there who think and see the same. There are others out there who have the same passion. You've both created a phenomenal community. You are breaking intergenerational trauma patterns and educating parents on how to raise beautiful humans. Thank you both for what you are doing. Ripping question. Did we all just wake up one day and kids just got more anxious overnight?
Well, yeah. So the pandemic, we are still seeing increasing. Like I still see a kid a week who has not returned to school since the pandemic.
Wow.
Years later, still haven't gone back. Really common. Yes, so we've got a lot of different reasons, and we could talk about that in, I think we did it in Aliens actually, really early on, because we were in the pandemic then.
Well, we were in the pandemic then, but here we are now, this is 3 years later.
Yeah, so really common. So let's talk about it. I'll be tight because I am making this one run long. So firstly, yes, you are 100% right. Our clinics, our fellows now, we talk about as a consultant group that supports our fellows every year. There is an increase in complexity that is like exponentially climbing. They used to see a couple of like 3-year-olds that are late talking and stuff. Now almost every kid they're seeing has, complex neurodiversity, complex trauma, because it's getting harder to access supports. Never in my career have private practices closed their books and said, we don't mind if you pay, we're still not willing to see developmental or behavioural kids. We'll see asthma and allergies because that's what a lot of gen peds are really well trained in. We will not see kids with anxiety, question autism, all that stuff. So it's getting harder and harder. It's kind of context specific to Australia, but our support systems are failing. We also know this is a data that's Australian, but it's also very similar around the world. We have an increasing amount of kids that are entering school and prep or the first year of school developmentally vulnerable. It's about 22%. About 4% of kids get funding. So for every kid that's funded, there's 4 kids that need funding that don't get it. So the system is failing kids. You will know people that have a personal experience of this, where their kid needs support, they want to see a therapist, they want to get an assessment that they can't. I'm very lucky. I work in a public tertiary biggest kids hospital, one of the biggest kids hospitals in the world. I don't have to worry about the financial side of it. I just see kids. I'm actively doing this advocacy work, so I'm trying to reduce the wait list. I'm trying to get people to what we do in clinic sooner. I meet all these kids and wish I'd met them years earlier. We're going to broach a 3-year wait list. It's a 4-month wait for me to see a review at the moment. It is awful. It is awful. I'm seeing kids who are actively suicidal, that are stressed. And so you are right, this is what it's like. The question of we know educators come out of training and they feel unprepared. There's solid evidence that shows that they're not adequately trained. There's solid evidence that shows the biggest predictor of an educator leaving a school and leaving that profession early is emotional and behavioural difficulties in their kids. They are not supported, they're not trained. Going to sound like a very big pitch, but this is what we do in Guiding Growing Minds.
Yeah.
This is what my PhD was and what we're trying to do as a resource. So that's why people with Patreon and all that stuff, what you're helping us do, you're helping us grow so that we have more capacity to put the actual evidence in this space. A lot of the wellbeing stuff and all those things, a lot of stuff in schools, unfortunately, is not evidence-based because it's very hard to do this. My PhD looked at a specific model, without going into it too much, that showed really strong acceptability, feasibility, and improved outcomes in terms of educator confidence in identifying and supporting kids with emotional and behavioural difficulties. We're just looking at how do we actually expand that now and starting to bring in other people and all that stuff. But I 100% agree with you. There's lots we can do. Well, I'll give it for another long, but that's how I'll answer that.
Cool. Hi, Billy and Nick. I was at your live show and really enjoyed the conversation around talking to your kids about anxiety in the future. I had a question I wanted to ask, but became too anxious to ask. The irony. What was I worried about? What was I worried you would do? Answer it. I reasoned with the topic. I resonated with the topic because of both my husband and my son. So you talked about the practical steps to deal with and talk to your kids about their worry, anxiety about the future. And I'm a believer in knowledge is power. But I was wondering, what can we do if what you're worried about comes true? So, for example, my husband's mum is really sick and has been for years now, and he's worried about her passing away, and that is filtering through to our son, despite our best efforts. The other thing we've noticed with our son, who is 4, is despite the amount of connection we try to give him in a day, it doesn't seem like enough. He doesn't want me to leave him alone in bed at night. Or if one of us is away for longer than he's at daycare kinder, his first question is Daddy coming home ever? Or is Mummy coming home to us? I don't think the two are connected in their origin, but I do think one is exacerbating the other at the moment. And obviously, there is an inevitability to my husband's mum that will need to support each other through eventually. So, what can we do if what they're worried about in the future comes true? Thanks for reading this and doing what you do and leading the way with our openness, honesty and vulnerability.
Grace, so yes.
Oh, P.S.
Sorry, yes.
Sorry. P.S. came late on to the piece. P.S. I was struck, it struck me the other day that we're essentially raising our kids to eventually live without us, and that blew my mind. I try to remember that when I feel like I'm having too many Griswolds in a week, so I don't take anything for granted, make the most of any time I have with my boys, but also so I don't feel too guilty when I'm less than. PPS, please come to Bendigo on your tour. We have loads of great venues you could come and choose from. I've been getting feedback from friends who are from Central Vic, but also like Southern New South Wales, who are just saying, we have to come.
Yeah.
Have to do regional.
Yeah, let's do it. We are coming.
Have to do
and
regional.
Bendigo, Annalise and I lived there like 10 years ago. It's a great.
Yeah. My sister lives there.
Some really great restaurants. They knew us a little bit too well. They knew which wines we had. And a great venue, the old jail there, mate, it would suit us perfectly to be in there on stage because they've refurbed it into a theatre spot and it looks amazing. Anyway, so quickly, so there are going to be things that you and I are worried about, but also that our kids are worried about in the future that will come true.
Yep.
I'm worried I'm going to get bullied and then it happens.
Yeah.
I'm worried grandma's going to pass away and then it happens. We did, just to park the grief stuff, we did that on my girl, went through the evidence really deeply on that, but thinking about, yes, that's a valid feeling, and then helping them process that logically is a really important part of kids who are worried about things in the future that might actually come true. You also want to help them balance the kind of emotional brain of that. Yes, that's a really valid thing to thinking about, but the logical component as well. And someone said in a short, there was something about helping them learn the things that can change and the things that they can't. That's a really difficult thing to be able to conceptualize. And so especially with younger kids, you just want to think about, we're going to do as much as we can to buffer this outcome happening, but when it does, is going to be all the money is going to be on the response and how we come around you when that awful thing eventuates. So because there will be certain things that parents are thinking about right now that are but I can't actually change that. The school's not able to stop bullying, whatever. I can. There's evidence-based approaches, but there's going to be things that happen that kids are worried about. And also saying, yeah, you were right. You were right to be worried about this, and then that happened. That must be awful. And that's a way that you validate that experience of occurring. And we will do a proper one on separated parents, that because we did co-parenting with Stoutfibre, we'll go deeper and when it's really awful and you can't do anything about it, because personal and professional experience of that is a lot. Yep. Anyway, let's keep moving because I know I'm...
Yep. Hi, big fan here, and I've drafted many reflections on my phone and have never mustered the courage to hit send. I justify the time it takes by saying to myself, at least I'm engaging in a reflective practice. Short form question from me. How can we differentiate between big emotions and anxiety in young children? Is it a helpful distinction to make? And is the approach we should take as parents, professionals working with these children different? The more I learn and reflect, the more I see common core principles across topics, but worry about thinking this way may not be appropriate and could cause further harm if not tailored to the specific needs of the child. Do we always need to know what's causing a feeling or presenting concern, behavioural psychological responses, or respond efficiently? Bravo to you both for spreading your wisdom and creating a collective space for parents and professionals doing their best to be held, learn and reflect.
So it's an important thing, isn't it? Because in this topic, we're talking a lot about anxiety and the future, and how do you differentiate between I'm a bit anxious about something versus I've got clinical anxiety? Do you have any thoughts on that? If you're looking at a kid, like one of your kids or a kid that you care about, and they're showing signs of anxiety, how do you tell if it's, that's just normative or typical anxiety that they're going through, or actually I'm really worried they've got clinical anxiety? And I don't expect you to be able to be like, this is how we diagnose it.
No, I would have thought, I was thinking about, all I can remember is the difference between, I'm thinking about depression, which is a low mood for more than 2 weeks. That is really consistent. But there's anxiety similarly, you've got heightened, it's really common and consistent.
Yeah.
As opposed to a one-off worry about one thing in the future and trying to drill down on what that reason is that might be actually doing that.
Yeah. So definitely. So there's 2 different ways you can think about it. One is how much functionally is it impacting the kid? How long has it been present for? It's permeating through everything. It's impacting everything that they are part of. They're not able to go to school. They're not able to be at school successfully. They're not able to leave the house. They're not able to do something. They can have specific phobias. So a lot of the subtypes of anxiety are specific phobias, such as performance anxiety, separation anxiety, specific phobias. The other thing is that there is a constellation of things that happen around it, remembering that just because a child doesn't show that they're anxious, they still might be, because they show it through things like constant agitation, constantly needing reassurance, feeling insecure in themselves and their potential to succeed at something. Their sleep is impacted. They can't fall asleep. They wake up all through the night. They feel tired all the time. Or the somatic symptoms that we always talk about, tummy pains, headaches, fatigue, all of that stuff. Not being able to concentrate, that's a really important one. That is a sign of clinical anxiety that will trip people up and they'll think the kid has ADHD, but they actually have clinical anxiety. So that's the big overarching thing. And very quickly, a really cool component of acceptance and commitment therapy, it's what's called cognitive diffusion. Now that sounds really technical, but what it is conceptually is my thoughts are valid that I'm anxious about, but they are thoughts.
Yep.
So not dismissing them, but they are thoughts. How can I then think them as thoughts that I move through? They're emotions that don't define me and pin me down and make me not be able to progress forward. And a lot of the way that they do that conceptually in kids' minds or in adults' minds is think about I am the sky and my feelings and emotions are the weather. Clouds, yeah. So, yeah, depression might be clouds that are coming through. But being able to acknowledge that that is a phase I'm in now, it doesn't define who I am. It will not always be this way. And thinking about that as a specific approach that we do is I am something that's constant. My feelings come and go. And that can be a really helpful approach to try and get to, including me. Like I ran this morning, hot out the gate, going for a run, really good mood, bit stressed because we've got a lot to do and get it in. Someone hasn't picked up after the dog and it's on the dog path. I'm like annoyed, angry, agitated. But I use that specific technique to validate that feeling that I'm having, but not letting it spill into the rest of my day, because that's what often happens to me. I see something that makes me anxious and agitated. People don't care. How bad are they? Very black and white thinking. Then I can move through. Actually, that's a valid feeling, but let it move. Let it keep going. Get back into like healthy, stable way of thinking about stuff and processing and functioning. So I did it this morning. I failed at it heaps. Yeah.
Lots of opportunities.
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Nick and Dr. Billy. I'm a mum of two beautiful boys. B is 9 and F is 5, and currently studying occupational therapy inspired by my eldest son's journey with ASD level 2 and ADHD combined. I could praise and compliment you both all day, but you've heard it all before, and I'll just say I love your work, you bloody legends. B, who is 9, is super intelligent and an incredible researcher. Just like most neurodivergent kids with a special interest topic. He's a natural teacher and is able to explain complex concepts in an easy to understand way. He has an incredible group of friends, most of them AUDHD, and fostering those social connections is a priority for my husband and I. B's anxiety about the future is overwhelming and persistent. He catastrophizes daily about seemingly innocuous situations and their impact on his dream to become a game developer. This leads to avoidance distress and a fear of failure and stops him from participating in school activities. This is despite me reassuring him that there are many pathways to achieve any goal, and he is one of the most intelligent people I have ever known. All of this is compounded by unfavourable comparisons to make between himself and neurotypical peers, some of whom are unkind to him. Sorry, I'm going to read that again. All this is compounded by unfavourable comparisons he makes between himself and neurotypical peers, some of them who are unkind to him. His peers have started noticing he is different, and so has B. There's a lot of apathy, sadness and hopelessness in my boy's beautiful, tender heart. His school results don't accurately reflect his abilities or intelligence, which his teacher readily acknowledges and tries to create small wins for him in class each day. To paint a picture of this kid's brilliance, he will spend hours drawing detailed storyboards and characters for the future games he will design. He sits at my piano and composes his own background music. Oh my God. Never had a lesson and is creating emotionally nuanced music. He'll figure out conversion rates on niche gaming toys he would like to buy from overseas. He's incredibly articulate and can repeat verbatim most videos he has watched about his special interests. Now to the question. How can we support highly intelligent neurodivergent children like B with intense anticipatory anxiety, especially when their dreams might not align with the typical academic success? How can I help him break out of these loops of despair, as I've come to refer to them, and catastrophic thinking while nurturing his ambitions. Keep up the good work. I discovered you a few months ago, and your episodes have led to my many emotional epiphanies as I navigate the impact of violent upbringing, which while upbringing while trying so very hard to be better for my two precious boys.
Yeah, amazing.
God, that's a great question.
Yeah, so the challenge of children who are neurodivergent is that we are more vulnerable to fall in a trap of our biased thinking, in that this will help me, so this will help you. This person, does that make sense?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And this parent is being amazing. It sounds like a really awesome educator as well, who's like, this kid needs small wins. This kid's obviously got lots of capacity for success, because there's so many things that they're good at.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is looking around and being like, hang on a second, I'm different.
Yeah.
And I've got some people being harsh to me and stuff like that. So a lot of the work that is being done is really good. Shout out back once again to Pretty Woman and self-esteem. Like this kid, that's how you foster secure self-esteem, is they frequently experience success in the things they care about and they're good at. There also is a thing about, like, sometimes, and one of the families said it beautifully about the homeschooling, was like, the pace I'm going at might be slower than what others might like. And I think a lot of the time with neurodivergent kids, we just need to slow down a little bit and be like, actually, we just need a little bit more time in this space to process this emotional or sensory experience or whatever's going on. And that will help us then move successfully to the next step that we talked about, which is what's the value-based choice that we're going to make, and then how do we action it? Does that make sense? So it's a really important bit, and sensitive temperament kids are the same, that we go, cool, no, I've validated your experience. I've sat there with it and all that stuff, and I'm going to move forward. So what I would say is I'm probably not being that helpful to this parent, because they're actually doing all the ingredients well, and that's why that question has been included. And keep going with validating that experience that kid is having, but then support them at a developmentally appropriate level to choose some actions that might be beneficial and then move towards those.
Okay. What about the despair in the moment, Billy? How can I help break the loops of despair? So these sound like they're coming up pretty often for this person.
So it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before of like, how do we actually learn that our emotions are not permanent?
This guy.
Yeah. So how do we learn that? When do you teach a kid that? If you're going to go home now.
Not when they're in despair.
Yeah. When do you do it?
Dysfunctional. At an appropriate time when they're open to hearing it.
Yeah, but still a bit of distress. Okay. So low levels of frustration.
Start seeing it
low levels. On. Yeah, but even just like not on the playground screaming, I've just, I'm at the traffic party and I can't ride the bike. You don't be like, hey, your feelings are just feelings. They don't, you know what I mean? The kid's just going to escalate.
It's hailing at that stage, Billy.
Yeah.
The clouds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you want you're in a safe environment of home, you're in a safe relationship with me, and you've just experienced some early despair, early frustration, early catastrophizing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just help validate that experience, but then help you learn and sit with it and then move beyond it. And you'll do that hundreds of times before you'll get to the point where they can do it at the highest level of distress. And that's what you work on. That's what you practice. Just like I did at running this morning. I could sit here and do it with you. If you're a bit annoyed about something, I hope that I do this with you when you get a bit frustrated. I don't dismiss it. I don't move past it. I watch and see, when are you ready for us to step just really gently towards what can we do about it, and watching that. And that is a skill acquisition component that helps kids get out of the loop of catastrophizing.
Yep.
It's a valid experience. It is not a permanent one.
Yep.
Anyway,
valid experience, not permanent. Last long. Hey, Billy, firstly, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for trying to make our lives a little bit easier and giving people like me hope. I often felt the need to write in on other topics, but never have. But since I'm awake at 1:30, 130 hours, I thought I'd give it a go. I'm not sure how to start, but here's a little about myself and my little family. I've battled with depression for most of my life, but this felt different. After our firstborn, I fell into a depression and a deeper one again with our second. They're 13 months apart, now 4 and 5. We've had many battles with our boys. H, our firstborn, was born with congenital cataracts, which was missed at the hospital but found out a couple of months later by us. He then battled with flathead syndrome or positional plagioccephaly for a while, but managed to make a positive change with the use of some orthotic helmet. At around the age of 2-3, we noticed he seemed a bit different, and after a number of GP visits, we were told he is autistic. We also believe he might have a few sprinkles of other things, but we're focusing on the visits with our speech pathologist and OT at the moment. Our other son, M, is quite the opposite to H. He is what you might call a rough nut, taking things on head first, literally. He's often the louder one and at times can be an instigator of the common tiff between siblings. Apart from his own feelings, he is very loving to his older brother. Relating to your most recent topic, the future, I couldn't help it, but I felt the need to write in. I feel like a failure every day. I feel like no matter how much I try with my boys, that I'm moving one step forwards and 2 steps back. I thought it was an authoritative parent, but my partner says I'm an authoritarian dad. I thought I was authoritative, but my partner says I'm an authoritarian. I try my best to stay calm, get down their level, and for lack of a better term, keep the peace, but it doesn't seem to work anymore. I'm often met with rage, things being thrown at myself and my mum, hitting in tantrums, which turns into uncontrollable crying, which can last a long time. I try my best to keep it together, but I feel I'm losing it myself more and more lately. I constantly have thoughts that I'm ruining their lives by being a fuck up. I feel I have no connection with them anymore and I can't get it back. I guess my question is, how can we know that we're not ruining the future by being a shit parent? Sincerely, one tired dad to another. Really sad.
Really sad and really valid to feel like that.
Yep.
And must be awful. So yeah, I had this experience the other day and it'll be helpful, hopefully, for this person and other people that might be feeling like this. I was talking to my amazing therapist about how I feel like I'm sacrificing so much time with my kids to do all this advocacy work and I'm going to be a hypocrite and the future is going to come back and bite me because I haven't had time with them to go and talk to other people about how important this stuff is. Yeah. And it makes me an awful person and what an awful thing to do and all these things. The therapist did a beautiful thing of like, that's your inner critic, which is harming you. Maybe there's a little bit in it that's helpful. Maybe you should address that feeling that you have and think about what can you do? What can I do to feel like I'm, really valuing and enjoying the experience of my kids that are growing up too quickly in front of me? How can you take that feeling and use it for action, but also challenge the idea that you're a bad person because of it? And understand that is coming from somewhere. My inner critic has protected me. It protects me no longer. I don't need it anymore. It is too harsh and hostile towards me. And this person, it's the same reason. There is a reason that you are so harsh on yourself, and it'll probably be previous developmental trauma, but it doesn't serve you anymore. And you should go and see someone professionally if you can and have the capacity, but that is what hopefully they will help you work on. The other thing is, the reason that you're getting down on the floor and it's failing and all that stuff is because you're beyond your capacity. But what you need to get your capacity back is to focus on connection. They said it themselves. I can't connect with them anymore. You can't make peace. You can't resolve conflicts. You can't do anything with people you can't connect with. So prioritize that over everything. Stop the veggies, stop the homework, stop the whatever, and just connection. And I'm talking about weeks. I'm not talking about forever. I'm not talking, you know what I mean? Like, this is something that we just all need to remember, going right back to Edward Scissorhands. We can't do anything effectively like co-regulate or help kids learn conflict resolution or anything else that we need, sticking up for themselves, whatever, without connecting with them first.
Yep. I think we had a really long one from a parent on that. They just dropped everything and just focused on connection. Yeah. And saw change.
Oh, I've seen it with the complete, like people worry. I've never met a kid that I'm like, there is no path back. Probably met 15,000 kids. Like I've never met, and some of the worst kids, worst. Yeah.
Worst situations.
Yeah. Awesome kids. Love meeting them the most.
I know.
But yeah, anyway, All right, that's all the questions. I'm going to end on something different that's not going to be emotional because I know I've been doing that lately. So
Let's take a few deep breaths.
But this is the last thing. Now, it's a question which I'll answer at the end.
Okay.
But it is such a beautiful description of children. And that's why I love it. And I think you will love it too.
Epic.
And I try and use pop culture to weave this evidence through. This person has beautifully used pop culture to talk about their gorgeous kids.
Get it.
Heineken and Billy OT. It's not fair if only one of you gets to be a beverage. I'm incredibly grateful to you all for the time and heart you've put into sharing your experiences, insights, and journeys as dads. Being the film buff that I am, your podcast provided the perfect recipe that I needed to start exploring this part of my own journey as a dad. I'm so glad that I was introduced to your podcast, that it has helped me navigate more situations than I can count and has only had positive impact on our family, making me a little bit better every day. When my wife is having a difficult time with the kids, I get to chime in with some pearls of wisdom that I've picked up from you guys. That being said, I'm definitely still a work in progress. Often when I wade into the heat of battle, I end up reverting back to my default settings, which aren't always ideal. But hey, each tough moment is a new chance to learn, grow, and do a little better next time. I'm not exactly sure when or how this is going to fit in, but for me, this takes up prime real estate in my brain, however far I look into the future. And I apologise in advance for taking the scenic route to get to the question. A quick scene setter, for which my inner nerd couldn't help but draw parallels and inspiration from The Fifth Element, as well as a few other little Easter eggs. I want to see if you can get them. Okay. I didn't get one of them, I took it up. It's that time of the year. As you see, that's never a dull moment with our lively and complex little crew. Our eldest, Zorg, is 7 and he's an incredible little human. He's wildly creative, has a deep love for art, and would happily build with Lego, board games, or solve puzzles for hours. He's super inquisitive and is never satisfied until he gets all the details. He's also just beginning his journey of self-discovery down the winding, sometimes bumpy, unpredictable path of neurodivergence. My wife, who seems to have some kind of Jedi-level intuition or even a sixth sense for this stuff, has been raising red flags for ages, quietly advocating for him, sensing that something didn't quite sit right. I, on the other hand, brushed it off for a long time, summing it up to him being a December baby, boys tending to be slightly more immature, and academically everything was tracking well. My aha moment finally came when listening to one of your episodes. Billy was talking about how, for him, ADHD treatment is less about academics and more about supporting kids socially. That concept had never even crossed my mind, and it completely shifted how I was able to view things, which inevitably opened up Pandora's box, only to discover that it was also more of a mirror. The more I read and listened to grow my knowledge to help him along this journey, the more I found myself thinking, this is eerily familiar. And sure enough, it turns out I wasn't just learning about my son. I was learning about myself too. And at times it has been uncomfortable and a bit messy, but finally seeing what was always there. Yet another thing I owe you guys a huge thank you for. You guys might need to slap a may cause life revelations warning on your podcast. So yes, Zorg has inherited ADHD from dear old dad, and we're now exploring the possibility of autism as well. In the past month, we've seen a noticeable escalation in his behaviour, mostly at home. Mornings feel like preparing for a battle with a tiny emotional small soldier, and by the time he gets home, he's used every ounce of energy just to hold it together. He struggles with emotional regulation and becoming more volatile, and unfortunately a lot of it is directed at his brother and his mum, which is starting to take a toll on their relationships. At times it really feels like you're standing in a long corridor with one of us trying to use all the strategies at our disposal to hack into his mainframe. In an attempt to understand his struggles that often he isn't aware of, whilst at the same time dodging, ducking and weaving around the unpredictable lasers that are being fired down at us. As his dad, it's heartbreaking to watch and not always know how to help, but also being able to draw on some of my past experiences to gain some insight into his struggles. Next up on our stage, quite literally, is our second son, Ruby Rod, the Chris Tucker character. He's 5 and fabulously full of flair. I can't remember the exact moment Elsa entered his orbit, but I do know that once she did, it's been let it go, ice powers and sparkly dresses. His life is essentially a musical with spontaneous solos, dramatic entrances, and full-blown choreography over the coffee table. There is always an outfit to match. Every outfit and performance draws inspiration from his latest muse, a mermaid, fairy, princess, or whatever magical being is currently living rent-free in his imagination. And if the character is traditionally seen as a male, no stress. He'll rewrite the entire backstory to make them a sister, princess ninja, or fairy queen. He thrives on connection. The louder, the brighter, and more energetic the environment, the more he lights up. As soon as he feels safe, he'll talk to anyone about anything and will give you his honest, unfiltered thoughts. However, we find that he's most confident, shy person getting around, as beneath all the sass, sparkle, and perceived courage is a much softer core. Ruby is deeply self-critical and far harder on himself than any 5-year-old should be, with the smallest mistake sending him into a spiral of negative self-talk, removing himself from the situation to hide away, or more recently uncontrollably crying because he misses someone. Mum could have left for work, so he has a day with Dad. A catch-up ends, his friend's gone home, or occasionally he's just thought about someone, which results in the same outcome. As with Zorg, most of this comes out at home, the place where he feels the safest to unravel. He has a tendency to switch gears instantaneously from calm to serene to chaotic and volatile, asking if you enjoy Beethoven, then blowing your front door open with a shotgun because he expected things to be ready at 12 and it's now in fact 12:01. Not quite with the same energy of collateral damage, but a similar energy. He is vibrant, imaginative, full of energy, but also incredibly vulnerable, and watching him carry both the magic and the weight of his feelings has been both beautiful and heartbreaking. Finally, our fantastic 2-for-1 special, Corbin and Lulu, the 2-year-old twins. Corbin, although only 2, I would say is the most likely to become former Special Forces. This kid leads with his head in all aspects of life. He just builds up some momentum and crashes on through the door. Whenever he hits resistance or stumbles, he jumps straight back up and keeps moving. He has the ability to sit fully engrossed in space opera, for him usually a book, only to moments later be diving around, gun in hand, destroying the place. Act first, thinking later, and deal with the cleanup tomorrow. He'll be the guy swaggering his way into a Chinese restaurant, demanding to meet with Mr. Zhang Tao. Do you know who that is? I'd look it up. Chinese restaurant, Mr. Zhang Tao.
I have an idea. It can be from any film?
Yeah, it's from a specific film.
Lethal Weapon 4.
Oh, I thought that too. It's Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. Yes.
Great. My guess is the same. With his limited vocab, I'm not sure he's be able to rely on his quick talking abilities, but I'm sure he's just around the corner. At the moment, if you don't understand it, he'll just yell it. However, wrapped up under his gung-ho nature is a little boy who craves connection with a gentle tenderness. I feel there are some more complexities under the surface, but they haven't quite risen to the surface. And if not far behind Ruby with his moves on the dance floor either. Lilo is our youngest by a whopping 17 minutes, but don't let that fool you. She's fiercely independent, endlessly determined, and somehow manages to be both chaos and grace in one tiny, unstuffable package. She's curious, playful, and utterly fearless. Whether it's doing handstands against the wall or launching herself off any service, she dives in headfirst into life. She would not look out of place jumping from a burning building screaming yippee-ki-yay. On this morning, we were at an indoor playground and another parent came up who I did not know and asked, "Is this the little girl that had stitches between her eyebrow the other day?" as she dove headfirst down the steps into the ball pit. Funnily enough, the stitches were a result of her casually walking into the lounge room and tripping over, headbutting the coffee table. At other times, she'll assess the situation quietly, then act like she's been doing it her whole life. She has this amazing ability to absorb the world around her, watching, thinking, quietly figuring everything out. If you have a problem, she'll try to solve it. She's happy to have a guiding hand nearby just in case. But if you step in without being asked, you risk losing that hand entirely. And beneath all that drive, there's this deep well of kindness. She looks out for Corbin without hesitation. If she gets a snack, she'll grab an extra one for him too, or his teddy, or his drink bottle, or whatever he needs. Unless it's something she wants, and then it's on, like Donkey Kong. We have no doubt that she'll take on the world and achieve whatever she puts her mind to. We're just holding on tight while she practices on us. Like I said, never a dull moment. Now for the question or questions. For Zorg, how do I stop my life journey and triggers from spilling into his? How can I know that the small steps we take today are moving his needle away from the supervillain towards hero? I know that he's absolutely capable. There are just a few extra side quests and hurdles for him to navigate, which at times make it seem unattainable. For Ruby, how can I overcome the urge to jump in to shield him from or warn him about something of the struggles that might lie ahead? How do I prepare him without making him too aware that not everyone will understand, that some people would rather destroy what they don't understand? How can I let him stay full of magic when I know the world will be so quick to tear it apart? For Corbin, how can I channel his physicality? How do I guide him without shutting down the very parts of him that make him who he is? How do I teach him strength without teaching him to crush? For Lilu, how do I stay fair? How do I make sure the rules stay fair, the expectations stay steady, and my attitude stays grounded? That for my love for her, my fear for her, makes me move the goalposts. How do I make sure she feels safe to be all of herself without handling her the weight of unspoken expectations she never asked for? How can I send them out into the world, curious, vulnerable, and believing, when I know full well that the world isn't always kind to the ones who feel too much? With each of their wildly different needs, how do I keep meeting them where they are? Give them what they need in the moment, when at times these needs can almost seem contradictory. All while slowly helping them assemble a toolbox they can reach into when they're not right beside me. How do I let them feel just enough for the hard stuff to grow strong without them being crushed under the weight of world's harshness before they ever have the chance to fly? I guess after all that, my question really is rather simple. How do you stop your perceived fears of the future negatively impacting the way you parent, guide, and grow your little humans? Thanks from a grateful dad. Amazing.
Amazing.
Don't you think that's just so beautiful?
Yeah. I love the tailoring, the use of the film, deep thought.
Deep thought. And just, I'm not worried at all about those 4 kids.
No.
They've got phenomenal parents around them, and there's vulnerabilities there. There's vulnerabilities in those 4 different temperament profiles and behaviours, but you do it by understanding those concerns that you have, but watch those kids, give them healthy relationships around them that celebrate who they are, put them into environments and communities that get to elevate the things that they care about. Whether it's little Ruby getting to express all that beautiful creativity in a way that brings out the gender diversity that's within them, whether it's, understanding the fierceness that exists in some of the other kids, but just watch them and guide them. And you're doing the most important essential ingredient, which is just unquestionable, unchallengeable love and positive regard. It's got to be unconditional, and the parent doesn't need to be told that. They just need to be reinforced that that's what they're doing. Those kids are going to be great, and if their families are part of the PCP community, then we will benefit from them being a part of it more than we'll be able to guide them. But I just thought it was such a beautiful one to end on.
I just have childlike images, like toddler images of Lilo and Corbin.
Yeah, like little.
Just like even a little mesh orange.
Yeah, with the back missing.
And the camo pants. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I just see them bouncing around.
Totally, yeah, it's phenomenal because just like the little Ruby, Jean-Paul Gaultier, he used a lot of the supermodels in the movie as well. We didn't talk about that. Some of the extras were stunning supermodels, but yeah, so it's really important that I don't want to dismiss the actual questions that person had, but yeah, you do it. Think about the sensitivities that are in each of the kids, which is what we need to do. Like, there's no cookie cutter response about how you set a kid up to have good development and mental health. You watch what their strengths are and what their vulnerabilities are. You make sure the majority of their life is the experience of their strengths being celebrated, and you make sure they get the level of support that they require for the vulnerabilities they have. And the vulnerabilities that they have either need skill acquisition or accommodation. You either support their skill development to get better at it, or it's not something that they are capable of getting better at, and you accommodate them.
Yep.
And that's what we do in clinic. We figure out whenever vulnerability comes up, which one of those 2 things is it.
This has been the most fulsome podcast. The topics, the range.
Yeah, well,
honestly,
hopefully a helpful one. And it was long, so sorry.
That's all right. I think we're going to wrap it up there, Billy.
Yes.
Any hints on what the next movie is?
Yes, we should. Let's give a clue because you know it. I'm getting some. This might help people. I'm getting resistance on the Photoshop from Nick.
Hard resistance. That's not enough.
That's not enough. Okay, what have you got?
Let's go with.
We've done 2 movies. This movie was the second big movie for both the stars, and we've
Yes.
done both the movies that they started their big break previously on the pod.
Yes. I feel for the...
Mate, people put this stuff into AI, so
yeah, I feel for the supporting... There's a supporting character in it, and I feel for that supporting character a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the supporting
Yeah,
character? I'm
yeah,
talking
I know
about?
exactly what you're saying.
I feel for that.
I think that clue is perfect.
Yeah, I think that I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
He did a lot of things. Yep. Anyway, yeah.
yeah.
It's good. All right, leave it at that. All right, guys, enjoy the episode, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.